Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this celebration of air conditioning. I'm going to start by welcoming our guests. And so, to do so, I will start with Ann Bright, guest of Jim Bright. If you didn't get a chance to sign up for a shift at the teacher's warehouse, please see Ann. Tony Huang, guest of Jim Bright. Tony. Amy Oliver, guest of Diana Hoffman. Becky Wan, guest of Brad Meyer. Ed Ryan, guest of Steve Engel. And Tina Zmick, guest of that ne'er-do-well Eric Coyne. Uh, Thank you all for being with us today. I thought today, given our proximity to the 4th of July, that I would reflect on our motto, service above self. There are reminders everywhere to celebrate life, liberty, and particularly the pursuit of happiness this weekend. And I intend to do all of those. But it's worth pausing, I think, at this moment and to think about what service above self means and what it took to create those ideals we now celebrate. The founding fathers didn't sign the Declaration of Independence lightly. They were pledging lives, their fortunes, their honor, and they meant it. Many would lose homes, family members, their own lives and livelihoods in this pursuit of a better society. They weren't just imagining a new nation, they were risking everything for an idea. And they put service above self in doing so. That kind of sacrifice didn't end in 1776. It's been carried forward by generations of men and women who have chosen to put service above self to those original ideas. During my life, I've come to understand that this idea of freedom and democracy isn't an abstract concept. It's something maintained by people willing to put themselves second to it. You see it in the press, you see it in peaceful protests, you see it in our town halls and on the streets where our first responders seek to keep us safe. You see it on foreign shores. You see it in this very room through our many acts of service. You see its importance and urgency in the faces of the oppressed who look to us for a better tomorrow. And this reminds us that freedom is not just something to take for granted. It's ongoing, it's personal, it's service above self. This motto, our motto, connects us directly back to 1776, 250 years of the belief that something greater than ourselves is worth our effort, our time, our service, and sometimes our sacrifice. So as Independence Day approaches next week, I hope we're each able to take a moment to reflect on not just what we have, but on what service above self means, what it costs, and what it still requires of each of us as we continue to pursue those glorious ideals our founders put forth. So I wish you all a very wonderful 4th of July weekend. Hope you get to spend some time with friends and family. And thank you very much and happy 250th birthday to America.
Thank you for doing double duty today. Leslie, do we have any guests online?
No, we're all Rotarians.
Okay. Guests in the room, if you have any interest in Rotary, find a Rotarian at your table and ask away. Have a couple of birthdays to report. First of all, today, June 30th, is Charles Pierce's birthday. And on July 4th, Independence Day, Joyce Poling has a birthday. Anniversaries. Today, 30th, we have 3 members who have a Rotary anniversary. Liz Irwin, 4 years with the club and 11 years total as a Rotarian. Craig Spence, 24 years in Rotary. And then also honorary member John Bender, 56 years as a Rotarian. On the 1st, Shelley Salee and Kay Johnson, 2 years. And on the 6th, Lydia Potter, 2 years. Have a bunch of announcements. So many of you have signed up to help at a weekly meeting during the next quarter. We still have more slots to fill, including someone to introduce guests on July 14th. So thank you for those who have signed up already. Those who haven't, look for the link in the roundabout and sign up to help at a meeting. If you haven't done so already, please introduce yourselves to our new executive assistant, Jill Jolliffe. She was at the welcome table in the other room. Next Rotary Book Group gathering scheduled for 7 p.m. on July 8th, home of Cindy and Dave, sitting right there. Book to be discussed will be the Anthropocene Reviewed, John Green's 2021 collection of essays on a human-centered planet. See Sally Gaskell for more information, or Dave and Cindy can probably help you if you have a question today. So, club organizational member, my sister's closet needs the power of Rotarians. They need to move their seasonal stock stored in the garage behind the building into their empty formal room. And to do this, they need to form a human assembly line of 30 people to pass one bag off to another down the line. Think of an old-time bucket brigade fighting fires. So each of the bag weighs 5 to 20 pounds. Bags are generally organized in the garage by season and type. Volunteers will empty these bags from the shelves in the garage one at a time and move them back into the storeroom or the formal room in the same rough order. Work will start July 9th. 9 a.m. should last 2 to 3 hours. Water and light snacks will be provided. They also need several volunteers that afternoon to sort and organize individual bags. So Sandy Keller is here to tell you how to sign up and answer questions. I plan to be there. I hope some of you will be there as well. Sandy, raise your hand so people, okay, Sandy's sitting right here. So hopefully we'll have 29 other people who volunteer to help. And this is in addition to all the work everyone's going to do for the supply drive at my teacher's warehouse. Okay, Hoosier Hills Food Bank, July 31st. Project is taking shape. The details and the sign-up link should be in this week's roundabout, so look for the roundabout. And this is the first week for signing up. 24 time slots. And as we've done in the past, we'll be working with Duke Energy. Rotary Toast, scheduled for November 6th at Ivy Tech. Lori Burns McRobbie is this year's honoree. Her designated charity is Middleway House. Tables are on sale. Club member Hannah Hirsch, sitting over there, is in charge of selling tables. And so she'd be happy to talk to you. Or you can go to the Rotary Toast website for more information. IU Dining has increased our meal charge effective August 1st. We're still sorting out the details. Tracy plans to discuss it at our July board meeting. But I imagine when all is said and done, we'll see an increase of $1 or $2 for meals. Sarah Laughlin will now spend a few minutes informing us about this year's Teachers Warehouse Supply Drive coming up.
Well, Ann Bright and I are kind of a tag team today, and so I'm really happy to report that yesterday when I looked, we needed 12 more people. Right now, we need 4 more people. So you guys are the best, but we still need 4 more people. The supply drive is July 11th. That's not this Saturday, but next Saturday. I'll be coming down from the 4th of July. And so I just want to say that when we do our 4-way test, it kind of meets all those things, but especially our own 5th way. Is it fun? Yes, it's really fun. It's a 2-hour shift at one of the Krogers in town. And the time goes by really fast because I would say 1 out of every 3 people actually donate. What we ask them to do is to go in and buy something, a box of crayons, a thing of pencils, some paper, some of the most needed things at Teachers Warehouse, and then drop them off right outside when they come out. So it's the perfect solution. Kroger's loves us because we're buying their stuff. We're not selling Girl Scout cookies outside their door in competition with their own Thin Mints. And you're working with other Rotarians, some from our club, some from the other 2 Bloomington clubs. And this year we also have Rotarians from Bedford and from Martinsville. who are also participating. So you might meet a Rotarian that you didn't know before. July 11th, Anne, where are you, Anne? She's got the sign-up sheet. See her before you leave, or I'm sure if we have slots still open, we'll have it in the roundabout. Oh, yeah. She says you don't really have to make a big pitch. I make a little ask, but you hand them the little quarter sheet of paper and say, while you're here, while you're shopping, would you buy something for Teachers Warehouse? Many people know what it is and are happy to do it. Others, have questions about it, and so you can tell them what you know. Teachers Warehouse was founded by this Rotary Club in 2004. So we still have, they're on their own. They're a 501c3, but we still think of them as kind of adolescents. Occasionally they need some walking around money. This is one of those times.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you, Anne. So we're not in this room very often. Because of the size of the room, we've gone from our normal 11 tables down to 9 tables. So that's why it seems more crowded. And I feel like I'm a host at a restaurant, pointing out an open seat for people. Yeah, plenty of room up front. Yes, just like church. Okay. So last week at the picnic, I presented awards to 7 club members who provided especially outstanding service during the past year. And I said nice things about each individual, provided them with a small thank you gift. Unfortunately, I spaced Marilyn during the ceremony. And so I gave her the thank you gift after the picnic, but I want to say a few words about her now. So as president, my time allocation was driven proactively by, boy, I want to spend time here and I can add value there. And then also reactively like, oh my gosh, we have a problem here and we need more resources there. And thanks to Marilyn and her team of reporters and an occasional substitute, I rarely had to spend time on the roundabout. It didn't demand my attention. So reporters reported quickly and accurately. Marilyn, an occasional substitute, edited quickly and accurately. Multiple people, most often Natalie, still working in the background, formatted and distributed on time. It's a lot of work, and it made me appreciate everything Judy Schroeder did over the last 30 years. So Marilyn is here today serving as this week's reporter. So Marilyn, thank you for all your hard work this past year. And if you could just stand up and we can give you a round of applause. Next item on the agenda. So when we elected club officers for 26-27 several months ago, we didn't have a candidate for club secretary. And since that time, the nominating committee has recruited Liz Irwin, and she has graciously agreed to serve. She's here today. She'd really like your vote. So club members, we now need to elect Liz. So may I have a motion to nominate Liz? Okay, Mike Baker. Okay, Mike Baker nominates Liz. Okay, may I have a second? Liz Feidel is second. Okay. Is there any discussion? Anything? To the best of my knowledge, no felonies. Okay. Leslie, any questions or discussion online?
Nope, I'm just leaving instructions for the team.
Okay, so all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Okay, those of you online, if you're in favor of the motion, please raise your electronic hands. And Leslie, let me know when you're ready. This is for the club. This is for the club.
Missing just Martha's and Bill's.
Do you have your count yet, Leslie?
Not yet.
Okay.
So Bill and Martha, if you could indicate a yes or a no.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay. I'm going to go and move forward. It seems to me, okay, all those opposed, say nay. Okay, it's unanimous. Liz, congratulations. And thank you for agreeing to serve. You'll do a good job. Okay. So at our club, June Club Board of Directors meeting, club directors unanimously voted to amend the club bylaws. This is something that Rotary International encourages us to do every year, and we get a point in the Club Excellence Awards if we do it. So now club members, now that the board has decided, club members need to do the same. So you should have received an email a couple of weeks ago with suggested changes and the reason for the changes. I think I put a copy at every table, but I don't see one over there, so I apologize. So anyway, may I have a motion to amend the bylaws as noted on the documents sent by email and on your tables? Okay, so Winston moves it. Do I have a second? Sarah Laughlin. Okay. Any discussion, any questions, concerns, comments? This is pretty open and shut wording, upgrading wording, with one exception, that when we elected, when Sam Udak bowed out of president-elect, and so we scrambled to find a new president, the bylaws state that the board of directors-elect makes the decision. Some of those directors are appointed, so it was really confusing. Had Sam reached out to people and asked them to serve? And so the language just changes it to the board makes the decision. So instead of directors elect, the directors on the board. Okay, any discussion or questions online, Leslie?
No, we do not have questions.
Okay, everyone in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed? Okay. Leslie, we have our 2/3 majority. Do you want to go to the work of counting online?
I think we're okay.
Okay, good. All right, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Yeah. And also hidden in there was a little clause that Tracy will now be president for life. Hannah Hirsch will introduce our speaker today.
I have the pleasure of welcoming Melissa Nam, who is the Director of Leadership, Bloomington-Monroe County, and the Associate Director of Alumni Programs at Indiana University Alumni Association. As part of Melissa's outreach and engagement team at the IUAA, Melissa oversees various programs, including lifelong learning live streams and the mini university, which just wrapped up for her. If you haven't had a chance to familiarize yourself with those are great opportunities. Melissa is a Bloomington transplant from California, and her family have called Monroe County home for the past 12 years. So as a townie, Melissa, I'll induct you as a fellow townie if you'd like that. And she holds a degree from the University of Redlands, and her husband, Jason, is the associate professor of bands at IU Jacobs School of Music. Melissa, welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting me today to talk about LBMC. Usually I am talking about Mini University. So this is a really great opportunity for me to share a little bit of something different that I do. First of all, how many folks have heard of Mini U? Just out of curiosity, because I recognize many of you. Now, who's attended? Yeah. Yes. So great. Thank you again for having me. This will be my third year as director of a 2026-27 year, and my fourth year associated with the program. I graduated through the program in 2023. So I transitioned very quickly from attendee to director. I worked with Trisha Revere Stumpf, who was the president, CAO of IUAA and also the director for 8 years with LBMC. Prior to that was Kyla Cox-Deckard, who I believe many of you are familiar with. And she was actually, when I first started working at IU in 2012, I worked with lifelong learning. And lifelong learning is where I met Kyla, and that was where LBMC was housed at the time through OVPUE. Some of you are nodding, so you may be familiar with that line. But that is how I met Kyla, and I had no way of knowing that I would be actually directing the program myself, those many years later. So that is a fun connection for me. I think one of my favorite things about going from an attendee to a director so swiftly was that I had a very unique perspective that I could offer. I could really relate to the incoming cohort in a way that I think was different than maybe had been in the past. I was just graduated, and then a handful of months later was leading the program. And it was also an opportunity for me to make suggestions as a recent graduate of what maybe we could do a little bit differently with the program. So I did enjoy that. I'd like to offer just a little bit of a history of the program. It began in 1984 as a partnership between IU and the Bloomington Chamber of Commerce, which remains today. I just went through some of the more recent directors, and we also had the opportunity to we're updating kind of our partnership with the chamber. So we will be having a chance to look through those bylaws and come up with something that's maybe a bit more current for our upcoming cohorts. Go ahead and advance here. Ooh, fancy. Our most recent class is pictured here. You may recognize some of the community members that are there with me. Each class is made up of so many different entities around the county. We have folks who work in healthcare, banking and wealth management, small business owners, higher ed, advancement, emergency services, crane, public and private sectors, nonprofits, etc. And the amount of knowledge that's just sitting in the room from day one about the community and the various ways you can be involved is pretty vast from the get-go. But there's always so much to learn, and we learn from our content experts who offer professional development sessions, as well as from each other as they begin their project work in small groups. A note that I make at graduation is the evident growth from that first meeting to the final one. Day one, people are tentative, noise levels low, we're murmuring, people are taking each other and the program in, not so much reserved as guarded. And then each time I walk into the room from then on in the morning, it's usually an early morning, we open at 8, we kick off at 8:30, the congeniality grows, and it's a fun thing to watch unfold in real time. The length of the program itself is 15 sessions, including orientation and project presentations, plus a built-in snow day and a graduation celebration. Class sessions include, which we actually used our snow day this year, which is not always the case. But our class sessions include economic development, intercultural communication, local government, community education, health education, community communications, ethics and leadership, etc. In addition to utilizing our meeting space at the DeVault Alumni Center, LBMC sessions are held in various sites across Bloomington, offering the participants a chance to see some of our local establishments. We have lots of representation here. We had one, we usually have one. We're learning about our local community at the museum, Monroe County History Museum. We had one at Ivy Tech this year. We also go to the courthouse. So it is a great opportunity for our members to kind of have a behind the scenes access to some of our local places. We also visit the library. A few words about projects. You can see that we have our most recent projects here. It's a little small, but we had 4 projects this year. Helping the Hive, lifting the Alice above the line. And their goal was to find ways pantries can collaborate to fight food insecurity more effectively and efficiently. Youth Build Feasibility. Build support and momentum through a feasibility study to begin a youth build program in Monroe County. Letters Across Generations. Create a group-based letter exchange designed to foster reflection, encouragement, and intergenerational connection between older adults and youth. And Spark. Increase donations and participation in and with local nonprofits by creating awareness of the many organizations and improving the ease of finding areas of interest. So projects really begin at orientation. We talk about what we feel is going well in our community, as well as what we would love to see improved. And these long lists we revisit a few sessions later when solidifying our groups. The projects must include working with a community partner or partners. Sometimes we end up with more than one, but there's usually a primary. They need to address a community need, and they must have a deliverable, which is something tangible to pass along to their community partner. I want to also mention a little bit about our LBMC Alumni Board, which since 2020 has undergone a period of transition. After dwindling down to 4 members, the board is now fleshed out to 9, with more interested in assuming active roles. Right now, the board meets monthly with 1 person meeting per quarter, in addition to providing scholarships for a handful of attendees each year. And the board nominates an alumnus to be the recipient of a Distinguished Alumni Award. They are also working hard to reinstate social gatherings, which offer important outreach and networking opportunities for the program's alumni. So I know that there's a lot of people that are here that have gone through the program before. Can you raise your hand quickly if you've been through the Leadership Bloomington course? Fair number of you. We would love to have you involved in the board. There's definitely going to be some opportunities in the fall for some social connection. If you're familiar with Heartworks Brewing, it is co-owned by one of our recent graduates. And that is really going to be an opportunity to get together in a more social setting to reconnect. It's been a while since we've been able to have a full board with committees that to put some of this work into practice to get back to a more active presence in the community. So if you're interested, please reach out. You can reach out to Hannah if you're interested in learning how to reach me, and I would be happy to get you in contact with Toya, who is currently our president. So I know it's kind of a lot of information. I did want to leave plenty of time for questions. And I also actually want to see if anyone would like to share the year they graduated the program, as well as their projects. And Tina, I'm going to pick on you because you're recent.
Fine.
Yep.
Once again.
Can we?
Great. Hello. Once again, I'm Tina Zmick. I work at Ivy Tech Community College, and I went through LB&C in 2026. I was a part of the recent cohort. Our project was called Helping the Hive, Lifting Alice Above the Line. And it started as a study on food resources within Monroe County and identifying ways they could collaborate, because we understand that Monroe County is very, very saturated with nonprofits and food resources, but there's still some gaps, and the solution may not necessarily be to add more, but how can we collaborate? And then we decided to do focus some of that study on the Ivy Tech Food Pantry and identified different ways they could collaborate with like Hoosier Hills, expand hours, resolve staffing needs. And I'm really thankful because since I work at Ivy Tech, I got to take that project back with me and continue that work.
Okay, anyone else want to share? Thank you. Yeah. Belinda.
I'm Glenda, and I was in the 1984-85 class that you mentioned. So I was in the first section set, and we didn't have projects. That was one of the additions afterward. But it was a really good indication of the opportunities, and Bob Zaltz was in my class. So there were at least 2 of us from Rotary. Later.
Thanks, Glenda.
Okay, that's a challenge. I was in I think it was the 88 or 9 class. We did have projects, but I can't remember what we did. I do remember that one of the members of our project group decided to run for school board as a result of the project. So
Melinda Cedar, I was in the 95 class back when Jane Clay was still writing Herd. And I don't remember what project we worked on, but my project came out a couple of months later because I was pregnant with my daughter, Kate. And she's gone on to Wonder Lab. So she absorbed the idea of community service and nonprofits in utero during the session.
Amazing.
Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Smith, and I was in the 2006-2007 class along with Trent Decker and Kyla Cox Decker. Unfortunately, I don't remember what our project was either, but it was a good one, whatever it was.
Do we have one more? If not, we can wrap it. Oh,
I'll tell a story that not about my project, which was kind of interesting and fun to do, but we did a session on government, and we went to City Hall, and there were several pretty interesting politicians at the time that were involved, and we went out to lunch afterwards and went to Nick's, and we went to Nick's, and I sat next to Lloyd Olcott, and if you'll remember Lloyd, and a wonderful individual. And he started talking to me and said something about computers, and I talked to him, and suddenly, I don't know how it happened, but suddenly I was buying him a computer. Here's my credit card. And I bought him a computer and helped him get set up. And pretty soon he told about a dozen friends of his, and suddenly I was setting up computers all over the county for elderly individuals. These were people in their 70s and 80s and 90s kind of thing. So it was quite the experience just connecting all that.
yeah.
just
See the
because
connections that you've made. Yes. Yes. Daniel, do you want to offer one more?
I'm Daniel Schlegel. You just took down the graphic. I was in the same class as Sandra McGowan, I think 22 or 23. But I really enjoyed LBMC. We did not use our snow day, so we actually got to tour the water plant, which I found very fascinating. And I learned a whole lot of stuff I had no idea about. But our project was dealing with the unhoused downtown. We had contacted a number of other cities throughout the United States to see how they approached it and what their solutions were. So we had, I think it was like a 40-something page report that we turned into the city and several other related institutions afterwards. So we did a lot of homework on that one.
Great, thank you. Before I open for questions, I just wanted to mention one more thing, which is another note that I make at graduation, which I think it's really a special part of LBMC is we're all there from different areas of the community, different walks of life, different ages, backgrounds, and we're all juggling multiple responsibilities and priorities at the same time. How often do you get to carve time for 15 weeks out of your life to offer I mean, I'm talking to Rotary, so I guess that's not a very good example, but how often, especially if you're just beginning in your career, or if you're so busy and entrenched in other things that you're doing in your life, it's such a gift, I think, to have that time carved out to prioritize giving of yourself and your time to your community. And that is a really special time that I think when we're in the trenches of it, it can feel overwhelming. But then when you're done and you look back at all you've accomplished and the networking that you've done and the connections that you've made and the good that you've done, and you can see those projects going forward out into the community and potentially picked up and continued, it really is special. And I think that that's an aspect of the program that we don't think about enough, is that you're given the gift of time to do something for others. So thank you again for inviting me. I welcome questions that you may have about LBMC. If you don't think of anything now, you can always reach out, and I'm happy to put you in touch with the alumni board, or if you'd like to take LBMC and you know, grow your professional development skills, you're welcome to do that as well. So do you have any questions for me? I'm waiting for the mic.
So can you tell us how many enroll these days for the program?
Yes. I don't know what it was. Glenda said there was about at least how many, do you remember your total number back in 84?
Around 25.
Around 25. Okay. I will say that we do aim for 25. And last year or this past year, we had 17. Year prior to that, I believe we had 22. And then of course, like most everything else, it was impacted by COVID and having to put things on hold, and then coming back and trying to get it started again, much like the alumni board. So I think we are still kind of coming off of that, but we're happy with the numbers that we've had. Really good groups. I would say 25 is definitely the goal that we still have. It's difficult, I think, with more than that because of the group projects, the dynamics of the group projects. But also difficult with probably less than 17. I think that was definitely the smallest number we've had in a good while. And we don't want the projects to be pairs. It needs to be at least 3 people, no more than 5. We have had a group, I think 2 years ago, that was 6, but they just couldn't break off. They couldn't figure out how to make them, to go into 2 different directions. So, but typically between 3 and 5 is kind of a sweet spot for projects, group sizes. So yes, last year was 17.
As a person who's not particularly informed about LBMC, except I used to cater your breakfasts every week, so I knew about that. You're talking about projects and people worked on projects, but as the community looks out, are these projects something visible that we would see? Are these internal projects? Are these ideas that this thing could happen if somebody picked it up and did it, like our Rotary Club did Teachers Warehouse? So I'm just curious, like, can you point to something and say that was a Leadership Bloomington project? Because I'm not connecting with the benefit of these projects if they don't come to fruition.
Right. Yeah, if I had to answer D, all of the above, that would be my answer to your question. They are projects that are out and about in the wild right now. Some of them are less visible because they happen at maybe one entity or behind the scenes. I know that Beltrace has a reading program that is, I believe, like an intergenerational reading program that's still ongoing. And that was started actually by one of my colleagues at the Alumni Association about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, and that's still going. I also know that Backpack Buddies, which is no longer going, but was going for quite a few years, is a LBMC project. And one of our current or past, I can't remember, before my time, board members was on that project. So there are definitely projects that are out and about, working behind the scenes. We have Tina's that is currently happening at Ivy Tech right now. And then the other answer to the question is that it can be an idea. Some of the work that is done is creating a template for someone like an organization to use. We have had people that are, so my project was working with, again, trying to address the food shortages in town, and also how do we impact areas that don't have information. It's hard to find resources if you don't know where to look. And it's also hard to find resources if you don't have access to the ways in which many of us today find resources, namely the internet. So we worked on taking all of the known places that offered food assistance and putting that into a trifold that would then be made available to emergency services. And I know that the Bloomington Fire Department and the Ellettsville Fire Department use it when they go around to different places for either training or emergency interventions. They do have that on hand, especially in their mobile van that they've put together, which was actually an LBMC project, now that I'm remembering it. And then also there's even like a step down from that, where the community partner that they're working with is someone that really needs some guidance on next steps. So maybe you're working with them to create like an entity that would benefit from a board. How do you formulate a board? How can we give them a guide on how to do something for themselves that they can pick up and then run with, and not necessarily something tangible in like a mobile, medical van that's going around, but something that they can utilize to empower themselves from within. So it's kind of all of the above. And I will say that one of the things that we're looking, the board and myself, to do going into the near future is going through, because we have the list of all the projects from 84 to now. Are there any that would be of interest to maybe a group that's not looking to recreate the wheel, but looking to reinstate a project that is dormant, or pick up a project where it left off and continue running with it? So we will be doing some work, because it's such a shame, right? Like, everybody's putting all this time and energy and effort into putting these projects into fruition, and then for them just to sit and not continue doing good in our community. So that is something that we're going to be looking to change and kind of put into practice going forward as an option for folks in the program.
So I have a comment. So I took LBMC in 1995, and that was the year that I took on the Bloomington Early Music Festival. And for me, it was a super important in terms of professional development, connecting to the community, getting to know how the community operates, in being introduced to a lot of different people in the community. And so I really benefited from the program in that way. So it wasn't so much a project that I developed than it was a project that I was helping develop, that already had existed, or that was being collaborated with a lot of other people. And interestingly enough, during that year, I was fortunate to meet Charlotte Zietlow for the very first time. And I'm sitting in this chair today because of Charlotte Zietlow. So there are a lot of connections that LBMC has enabled.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
We have a question online. Joy, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much for coming today. And mine's more a comment as well, because I was a member of the class of 2004. And I do very well remember our project because it was related to public art, having murals in public art. This was pre the Bead District. This was, so there was a lot of, in our particular team, in our group, wanting to promote and advocate for more art, public art. So if you're resurrecting projects, look at the one from 2004.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. If there's anybody who has a project that they would like to put forth as an option for our upcoming classes to consider, that's another really great way to help leverage upcoming classes, and also put some help into the already existing programming that we have around our community. So please feel free to share.
Yes, for young professionals, somebody new to the community, what exactly are the time commitments?
Good question. We typically start with our orientation in October, and we've moved towards the end of October because of the fact that I work with the Alumni Association, and it tends to be homecoming right around that same time. So it is difficult for me and our coordinator to be gone earlier than that. Although I will say this year, I think that homecoming will be later, but typically in October. And then we start, it's usually every other, I would say, week. Sometimes it's back to back, just depending on space availability. If we're going off-site or visiting an entity, or there's a faculty member that's presenting that has a certain availability. But it typically is every other week, and we begin at 8 o'clock. You can come in and start visiting with your team, have a little something to eat, and then we kick off at 8:30, and that goes until noon. So it's typically, we are also trying some afternoon sessions, just to try to see if that works better for folks. I would say it's about 50-50. We were doing a little bit of research trying to figure that out, and it's still not really swaying one way or another, so we'll see. But it's about, like I said, 15 weeks, and we do, it's about 4 hours every other week.
How much does it cost?
Good question. I believe it's $1,200, and usually it is Usually that fee is paid by the person's workplace. I will say we have had in recent years a couple people that are running a small business, and they are self-paying. And as I mentioned, we do have a scholarship program that folks can apply for. And then our board hands out those scholarships, and it typically is between 2 and 4 a year. So we do try our best, and sometimes it's partial. So if somebody needed, they can do this much, or their employer was going to put up, maybe half of the fee, they could apply for the other half to be covered by the board. Any other questions?
I would just say I was new to Bloomington the year that LBMC started. And Mayor Allison came into my office one day because I was working for her at the time. And she said, Glenda, they're going to start this program and I want you to represent the city in it. Well, it was a wonderful thing for me because I was new to town. I was the redevelopment director, which is the precursor to HAND. So I needed to meet all these people and I needed to get better acquainted with town. And then with the Leadership Bloomington continuing classes, I continued to meet people over the years who were involved in LBMC. And we always talked about how people who've completed that would be wonderful board members for the various boards in town that need more board members. So
thank you. Okay, thank you so much.
Melissa, thank you. Thank you for nurturing leadership in our county. In honor of your talk, a donation will be made this quarter to Wheeler Mission. You started talking about Mini University, and a number of us put up our hands. I will put in a plug. Those of you who were at Mini University this year and you heard a speaker that you really liked, make sure you visit with Michael Shermis and talk and see if that particular speaker who was so good at Mini University might be a fit for our club. We are ahead of schedule. So after being president for a year, I still can't plan an hour. But Mike Baker, it's short notice, but are you in a position to do a Paul Harris today? Or you feel prepared to do one for Tracy? Okay. So why don't you do that? While you're doing that, I'm going to go back and get her pin and I'll bring it up for you. Tracy, come on up.
Normally I have a little bit of notice so I can dig up some dirt, because I like to have fun with this, but obviously everybody knows Tracy. She did a great job when she was president before. So we just expect her to double everything this year. But she's been a good new member of our club. She does set some very strict rules, like on the amount of time you can talk, especially during Paul Harris presentations. She's tried to enforce unsuccessfully the 3-minute reflection rule. So some of our members do better at that than others. But I would like to mention that, the Paul Harris Fellow is a recognition for members of our club who support Rotary International. And most of you know that the money that is donated to Rotary International does good in the world. Water wells, sanitation projects, but a lot of that money that we invest to Rotary International is put into a fund, and every 3 years, a percentage of that comes back to our club in the way of a grant that we're able to match and do some things locally. And so Tracy, like other Paul Harris Fellow members of our club, help support that, and it comes back to help our community. Today, we're going to recognize you as soon as someone brings up your pen. And I believe I'll be able to look, is it the Paul Harris Fellow plus 3?
I don't know.
I think it's the 3. So your first Paul Harris Fellow is recognized after you've made a total contribution of $1,000. This can be $100 a quarter, it can be $100 a week, whatever you want to choose. Any Paul Harris Fellow after that is an achievement of another $1,000 to our club. So this is your Paul Harris +3. And I'm not going to try to pin this on you
I
today.
appreciate that.
Yes, for your safety.
I appreciate that.
Yes, for your safety. But I do want to thank you again, take this opportunity to thank you for your leadership and your sense of humor, because you're going to need it this year. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Tracy. Over a year's time, you do learn which members can get up at a moment's notice and perform, and Mike Baker certainly fits that category. And Tracy, thank you for your generosity for the club. Couple of comments. So we're in election season, and Rotary is nonpartisan. We do have political leaders who are members of our club. Candidates are encouraged to come to our meetings. In an election season, we don't let one candidate for a party speak unless we're having the other candidate speak. So typically candidates will just come and meet our members. So we do have a candidate here today, Amy Oliver, who is running state rep Brown County and part of Monroe County. If you're in that district, certainly seek her out and find out why she thinks you should vote for her. And then if you have other candidates who might be interested in coming to a Rotary meeting, please invite them. And they can have the same privilege of meeting our members and sharing viewpoints. So I would like to thank today's volunteers. Katie Cerniak was our greeter. Eric Coyne introduced guests and provided the reflection. Hannah Hirsch introduced our speaker. Leslie Kutsenko was our Zoom host. Marilyn Wood is our reporter and editor today. Michael Shermith, camera Mike. Dave Meyer, our photographer. And then short notice, Alan Barker filled in tech support. So yesterday afternoon, I visited briefly with Tyler. He was pretty distraught. He had hurriedly booked a late day flight to Los Angeles in an effort. He wanted to get out there in time to see his dying grandfather. So if you could remember Tyler and his grandpa in thoughts and prayers, he would appreciate that very much. He was very shaken up. So next week, please join us in the Georgian Room. It'll be our annual club changeover. We will sweep out the old. We will celebrate the new. Sandy Keller is here. Remember, she needs help for my sister's closet. So see her if you can volunteer on July 9th, the morning. And then Ann Bright over there looking to fill 4 more slots for the Teachers Warehouse supply drive. So Alan, if you would please share the graphic for the 4-way test. Please stand if you're able and join me. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And fifth, is it fun?
If you can still hear me, if it's Jeff's iPhone, I just want to make sure it's Jeff Richardson. Go back, and all of it's towards donation. Oh.